This is a video I hoped I would never have to make, and I certainly didn't expect to be making it so soon. On the 7th of March 2024, I had to have my darling beastie, Titan, put to sleep. So I'm making this video, one, to let you guys know, and two, to look back and celebrate our time together. So first off, I'm gonna, just so it's out in the open, Titan was put down because he had a twisted gut. So we've had a really bad week. We've had 2 cars break down, but and then this has obviously happened, but I am grateful in a strange way, because actually my car breaking down meant that he wasn't left for very long at all. So on Wednesday night we went to walk the course for Osby because we were due to do our first event of the season on Thursday morning with Maggie, and on the way home my car dropped all of its coolant because a pipe went, and we had to be towed back through town in the dark, and that was left at the mechanics. Previous to that, my mum had taken her car into the garage, so we were effectively carless. So we were quite late getting sorted, and mum came to stay over here for the night so that she was here ready to go eventing the following morning, which was the first blessing because it meant that I had her here and she was here ready to help. And then on top of that, because we were finishing so late, it meant that I did a really, really late check, and I checked on the horses at midnight, and at that time everybody was absolutely fine. And I'm grateful for that because it means that I know that he wasn't suffering for very long when I found him. So the following morning I came down to the yard for 5 a.m. to get Maggie ready, and I found him laying down, which I thought was fine because it was early, and then went and did a few other things while he got up. And then when he got up he was pawing the ground, and I immediately realised he was colicking. So I got mum to come and double check me, and she agreed, and we called the vet. So we called the vet within 10 minutes of me getting down to the yard. The vet came, she could feel a displacement, she gave him pain relief and Buscopan, she helped us get him loaded, and she referred us down to Oakham pretty much instantly. And I'm so grateful to everybody who's helped us on Thursday, because we had the best possible treatment service for him. Everybody did their absolute best by him, and I'm so, so grateful for that, because it meant that he didn't have to suffer too much. When he went to Oakham, they obviously could also feel the displacement, but his blood work was actually really positive. So we were quite optimistic, and he hadn't blown up with gas or anything like that yet. He just had a displacement, which we'll never know why. So with that, we got sent home, and they were going to treat him medically with lunging and pain relief. And then by 11 a.m. we had a phone call to say that he had deteriorated quite badly. And by the time we got there, he was really very poorly. And then when I got in to see him, he laid down. It was clear he was still in pain despite not being able to have any more pain relief. So we made the decision to have him put to sleep to make sure that he was okay. Because the last thing I would ever want for him is for him to suffer. So I just wanted you guys to know, because I know you get quite invested in the horses too. I just wanted you to know that he instantly had people around him, and everybody did their absolute best by him. And every decision was made with him in mind. And he had lots of people around him cuddling him right to the end. So I don't want this video to be all sad. And I'm sorry about the crying. I could have maybe waited to make this, but I don't know. I think it's good to do it now. I've been looking through so many pictures of him, and I just adore him so much, and I miss him so much. And it was such a shock because he wasn't showing any signs of ill health or anything like that. And it just comes as a shock. But it often, you know, there's not often a nice way for an animal to pass away, or a human for that matter. Although I had really hoped that maybe he could have had a fairy tale ending because he's been such an amazing horse. But that hasn't been the case for him. But we tried to make it as good as it possibly could be. I now want to pull myself together like a pair of curtains, and I want to run you through our journey together. I can't run you through right from the start because I don't know his complete history. He was a bit of a mystery, but I'm going to run you through his story from the start of when I met him. On the 19th of June 2017, I met this darling boy. Titan at that time was known as Jack because his owner didn't like the name Titan, so she changed it to Jack. And when we found out, we immediately changed it back the moment he got on the lorry. And he was 11 years old at the time, a little bit older than we were looking for, but he was just so cool. It didn't matter. His 16-hand Irish sports horse. It was probably one of the hottest days of the year. I remember it was scorchingly hot, and I remember going and sitting on him for literally about 5-10 minutes, jumped a single cross pole, and instantly knew I adored him. So if we rewind it slightly further back, at the time I had 2 young horses who were booked in to go for loss of performance or poor performance workups at Newmarket, and I was coming up to my uni summer holidays where I would have plenty of time off to compete, and I had nothing to ride at that stage. So Mum came down on that morning with this bright idea that we should get a project horse for the summer that I could compete. And she didn't have a massive budget to spend for me, but we came up with a criteria that this horse needed to be. So we collated a list of horses and we found the most in one place to view in one day, and it was down in Kettering. And Titan was one of these horses, or as he was known back then, Jack. And I viewed the first horse, didn't like it. Titan was the second horse to view, and I got off him within probably 5-10 minutes. Mum assumed that I really didn't like him with the speed I got off him at, and I pulled her aside and I said, please, 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 can we have him? And we were the first people to view him, and we negotiated a slight discount on the price in exchange for going and picking him up literally as soon as his vetting was done. He only had a 2-stage vetting plus bloods, and we put the deposit down and we went, and we didn't view the third horse because I so adored him. And that was the beginning, I suppose. About a week later, we went to Eland Lodge, BE80T, and he was a really good boy. He wasn't all straightforward. He was very cheap because he was quite quirky. He had a tendency to try and flatten you as you went through a gateway, which he always had to the day he died. He nearly flattened me the other week because I tried to get him through a gate that was shut and I hadn't propped it open before we got to it. When we got him, he was incredibly head and ear shy. His previous owner had done a good job. She'd bought him off of a Facebook auction back in the days when you could sell horses on Facebook and there was actual unseen auctions, and she'd amazingly bought him on that, and she'd been hoping for a happy hacker, and he was incredibly sharp for that sort of thing, sharp and spooky forever, bless him. So he wasn't a suitable happy hacker, but he was a very attractive horse that moved very well and really enjoyed his jumping, and he was just a bit too much for her, but she'd done quite like a real good job getting him from where he was when she first got him, where I assume he was even more nervous, and to where he was by the time we bought him, which stage he was still very nervous, but you could get a bridle on by taking it apart and putting it on, and he was still quite worried about confined spaces, but we worked our way through it. But he had an absolute heart of gold. He did absolutely hate hacking, and I got him to the stage where he liked it in his own way. Again, even to a couple of weeks ago, he still span around with me out hacking, but that's fine. I've never minded that. It's just part of his character, and it's never been anything nasty. He's just always been a little bit sharp, and from there we just hit it off. He was just brilliant. I'd always had incredibly quirky horses. We've never been able to afford to buy a perfect ready-made horse, and I'd always enjoyed having a talented horse. So in order to have a talented horse within budget, I had to take on the quirks, which before Titan often meant that I was sat on a horse I didn't really know if I'd get to the other side of a fence. Whereas with him, I could trust him to get to the other side. He was so genuine and willing to make sure that we could get from A to B. And he's just a horse that absolutely made me, I think. His first horse that I could reliably compete. And he had such a kind nature. He's always been a bit of an introvert, a little bit quiet and sensitive. But once he came out of his shell, he had such a personality. And we went from strength to strength out competing. We started obviously at that ATT, and then our second event was at Pony Club areas, stepping up to 90 around a championship course, and he jumped round and we got placed. I think we came 6th. From there we had a great season at 90, and at the end of the season he got a hayseed in his eye and he had the back end of the season off. And I think I was dissertation year with uni, so I gave him like back end of the season and the winter off, which was amazing because it gave him the opportunity to lose a lot of muscle, because when we got him, I don't think it was his previous owner, I think it was prior to her. He had obviously been draw reined and ridden in sort of the wrong frame, so he ended up with quite a lot of muscle built up underneath his neck and no top line. So having the winter off gave him the chance to lose that muscle, so I could start from a blank canvas on this horse that I'd already sort of worked with and knew that I trusted by then as well. So it was kind of, in its own way, a little bit perfect. He was hogged as well when I got him, so having that winter off gave him the chance to grow his beautiful mane out. Oh, that was it. It wasn't dissertation. I broke my ankle that winter, so he had extra time off because it took me 3 months to come back from my broken ankle. But I brought him back with lunging, so again, like I say, he did lose the muscle. I remember he had the time off for losing the muscle. And I brought him back to work with lunging, and I lunged him in a shambon, so he worked long and low, and I did a lot of lunging, getting him fit, because I was desperate to get back on as soon as I could, and I did, and he was such a good boy that I was able to get back on and go straight out competing. And I went and I think he did very well. I can't remember exactly where we came, whether he won his test, but he did a dressage test 10 days after I got back on, which is just incredible because I could barely bear to get my heel down, and he just cracked on with it, bless him. And we really pushed forward then. I got him out competing and we stepped straight up to 100 level, and I'll talk about this in a different video, but I suddenly got him up to 100 level and I suddenly completely and utterly lost my nerve. It was almost as if it was a delayed reaction or something. And by then I'd been to areas with Pony Club at 100 level and we qualified for the championships. And Pony Club champs back in the day at Cholmondeley, they used to run the 100 round the novice course, so it was really beefy. And I was terrified, and yet he was his incredible self. He just kept on trying for me the whole time, and he looked after me. I was thinking back yesterday, and I think in 7 years of having him and riding him and competing him, I think I came off 4 times, and every time I came off was sort of an external circumstance, and it's inevitable when you're out competing and you're pushing yourself and you're trying to move up the grades that stuff happens and you come off. But it just shows how genuine he, even on days when he was scared, when he was possibly having flashbacks or whatever to slightly rougher treatment in his previous homes, he was never nasty. He was always the most kind, genuine boy, and I can't stress how amazing he was and how much I adored him. So we had this amazing season in 2018 where he was incredible. He moved up to 100. He was stunning and beautiful. But I was really struggling with my confidence, and he sort of came with me on it. And by the end of the season, we sort of managed to crack it, and I was back out competing happily at 90, and I think I finished off with a 100 run. And then we went into 2019, which was sort of my final year graduating from uni, and unfortunately I sort of started the season a little bit later that year because of my dissertation and everything, and unfortunately, just as I was getting going with the season with him, he loved rearing in the field. He always has, and he loved to play, and then he'd stand up quite high on his hind legs, and he subluxated his SI joint. So he actually had a lot of time off after that. I think we gave him 8 months off to, let that heal. So we sort of lost a little bit of time there, but I didn't care because I just loved being around him and spending time with him. And all throughout this, he's been the best of friends with Maggie. We got Maggie the year after we got him, and they've always been out together. And then we got him back going for 2020, and of course it was COVID year, and it was a bit stop-starty, but we had a really incredibly competitive season. And after him subluxating his SI, I made the decision that he could just stick at doing stuff that he found fun, because he'd already done so much for me, and I just adored riding him. Every time I sat on him, there was just something special about him. And we competed, and we just carried on going out at 90, and he loved life. You've never seen a happier horse coming out of the start box. He was incredible, and we got some really good results. We got loads of regional championships qualifications, and we even had a win at Frickley. And I don't know, the rest is history, I guess. You can pick it up on the vlogs from back when I started, and I loved riding him bareback. He was like a Liberty pony. He'd just follow me around, which is why I really wanted to try Liberty with him this year. His dressage was incredible. We went from getting 40-something at that very first event, and we'd get scores as low as 20. We definitely got 26, because that's what we got when we won at Frickley. I think we've possibly even had a better score again since. And yeah, he obviously had a few niggles after his SI, but we were able to manage it. And he had a issue in 2022 with his breathing, where he got a bad virus in the 40-degree heats, and we had a nebulizer, and I spent some evenings sleeping in his stable, and we were just absolute best friends. Like I say, he was just the kindest, most genuine, most stunning horse. And he was beautiful to ride, beautiful to look at. In his later years, I let a few younger people that I knew ride him, and he took on the job of being the professor and doing a little bit of teaching. And yeah, I've just adored him the whole way through, and it's been amazing. I've been so grateful to have him, and I so adore him, and I will forevermore.
Nothing ever felt as good or as easy as when we were young. Though I felt misunderstood, it was a pleasure running away with you. We were just children acting like a doll, crazy, naive, bold and carefree. We were kids having kids, crazy, naive. It amazes me that we didn't fall apart harder than we did. Now they keep us on speaking terms. We grow and we learn. guess. Oh, a big thank you to life for giving us sand. Oh, when the timing's right, there's no wasteland. Oh, we were just children, acting like a dog